This is the forest primeval, the murmuring pines and the hemlocks, bearded with moss and in garments green indistinct in the twilight, stand like druids of eld with voices sad and prophetic, stand like harpers hoar with beards that rest on their bosoms. Loud from its rocky caverns, the deep-voiced neighboring ocean speaks, and in accents disconsolate answers the wail of the forest. This is the forest primeval. But where are the hearts that beneath it leaped like the roe when he hears in the woodland the voice of the huntsman? Where is the thatch-roof village, the home of Acadian farmers, men whose lives glided on like rivers that water the woodlands, darkened by shadows of earth, but reflecting an image of heaven? Waste are those pleasant farms, and the farmers forever departed, scattered like dust and leaves when the mighty blasts of October seize them and whirl them aloft and sprinkle them far o'er the ocean. Naught but tradition remains of the beautiful village of Grand Prix. Ye who believe in affection that hopes and endures and is patient, ye who believe in the beauty and strength of woman's devotion, list to the mournful tradition still sung by the pines of the forest. List to a tale of love in Acadie, home of the happy. Part the First, Canto 1. In the Acadian land on the shores of the basin of Minas, distant, secluded, still, the little village of Grand Prix lay in the fruitful valley. Vast meadows stretched to the eastward, giving the village its name and pasture to flocks without number. Dikes that the hands of the farmers had raised with labor incessant shut out the turbulent tides, but at stated seasons the floodgates opened and welcomed the sea to wander at will o'er the meadow. West and south there were fields of flax and orchards and cornfields spreading afar and unfenced o'er the plain, and away to the northward Blomidon rose, and the forests old, and aloft on the mountains sea fogs pitched their tents, and mists from the mighty Atlantic looked on the happy valley, but ne'er from their station descended. There, in the midst of its farms, reposed the Acadian village. Strongly built were the houses, with fields of flax. Strongly built were the houses, with frames of oak and of hemlock, such as the peasants of Normandy built in the reign of the Henrys. Thatched were the roofs, with dormer windows, and gables projecting over the basements below, protected and shaded the doorway. There, in the tranquil evenings of summer, when brightly the sunset lighted the village street and gilded the vanes on the chimneys, matrons and maidens sat in snow-white caps and in kirtles, scarlet and blue and green, with distaffs spinning the golden flax for the gossiping looms, while their noisy shuttles within doors mingled their sounds with the whir of the wheels and the songs of the maiden. Solemnly down the street came the parish priest, and the children paused in their play to kiss the hand he extended to bless them. Reverent walked he among them, and uprose matrons and maidens, hailing his slow approach with words of affectionate welcome. Then came the laborers home from the fields, and serenely the sun sank down to his rest, and twilight prevailed. Anon from the belfry, softly the angelus sounded, and over the roofs of the village, columns of pale blue smoke, like clouds of incense ascending, rose from 100 hearths, the homes of peace and contentment. There dwelt together in love these simple Acadian farmers, dwelt in the love of God and of man. Alike were they free from fear that reigns with the tyrant and envy the vice of republics. Neither had they locks to their doors nor bars to their windows, but their dwellings were open as day in the hearts of their owners. There the richest was poor, and the poorest lived in abundance. Somewhat apart from the village and nearer the basin of Minas, Benedict Bellefontaine, the wealthiest farmer of Grand Prix, dwelt on his goodly acres, and with him, directing his household, gentle Evangeline lived, his child and the pride of the village. Stalwart and stately in form was the man of 70 winters. Hardy and hale was he, an oak that is covered in snowflakes. White as the snow were his locks, and his cheeks as brown as the oak leaves. Fair was she to behold, that maiden of 17 summers. Black were her eyes as the berry that grows on the thorn by the wayside. Black, yet how softly they gleamed beneath the brown shade of her tresses. Sweet was her breath as the breath of kine that feed in the meadow. When, in the harvest heat, she bore to the reapers at noontide flagons of home-brewed ale, ah, fair in sooth was the maiden. Fairer was she when on Sunday morn, while the bell from its turret sprinkled with holy sounds the air, as the priest with his hyssop sprinkles the congregation and scatters blessings upon them. Down the long street she passed, with her chaplet of beads and her missal, wearing her Norman cap and her kirtle of blue, and the earrings brought in the olden time from France, and since as an heirloom, handed down from mother to child through long generations. But a celestial brightness, a more ethereal beauty, shone from her face and encircled her form when, after confession, homeward solemnly she walked with God's benediction upon her. When she had passed, it seemed like the ceasing of exquisite music. I mean, I had a couple flubs, but in general, it felt okay. And really, what I have learned from this particular recitation is that I need to kick the cat out of the room, and I need to shut the door and bar it so the other cat doesn't try to get in. Because the times that I kind of lost concentration and messed up a bit were because one cat is over here. She's in her cone. She has to be in a cone for a few minutes every day while she gets medicine on her belly. She's over there, and she was looking over here like she was gonna jump. And so I got a little nervous. And then a little bit later, the other cat was like popping at the door and thinking about coming in, and they tend to fight. So then my brain got distracted. So really focus is the key to being able to do a good recitation, especially when the piece is as long as this particular one is and unrhymed. And he plays fast and loose with the meter, right? Like some of the lines are very solid dactylic hexameter. Some of them, lots of substitutions, lots of trochaic substitutions going on. So it's kind of difficult in that manner. We are about halfway through September. I hope that by October I can start adding some more lines in. And I discovered that one of the things that I need to do is I need to conceptualize the poem differently. In my session on memorization that I did for Poetry Witch this past Wednesday, I talked about the fact that to memorize things, your brain tends to like things in chunks of 5 plus or minus 2. So between 3 and 7 sort of sections. A section can be a meter or a metrical foot. It can be a line. It can be a stanza, whatever. What I'm realizing is that what I have in my brain right now of the poem that I've memorized is over 7 chunks because of the way I've chosen to memorize it. So what I need to do is get my brain to think of it all as one chunk. And optimally, eventually, Canto 1 will be a chunk. So what I have to do is have smaller chunks and then find a way to get my brain to see them as one chunk later and then add things. Also, I hate the word chunk. I mean, it's not as bad as some people are with the word moist, but it's definitely not a great word. And in this context, I don't know, it just doesn't sound fun. Whatever. I didn't come up with it. And maybe somebody, if you know a different word that people use in terms of memorization and the concept of segments, yeah, I could just say segments. You're right. I could just say segments. But if you know a word that is used within the community that talks about memorization, I come from a study skills background when I talk about memorization, and that's where the term chunking comes from. So I don't know. If you got a better word, let me know. Thank you for stopping by.